Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another video, welcome if you are new. Today, it's very exciting. We are reading 3 fantasy books that all have under 10,000 ratings on Goodreads. So we are getting into the autumn spirit and we are reading, frankly, my favourite genre, which is fantasy, but some slightly under talked about ones, and 3 that I'm actually really excited to read for very, very different reasons. One is from the library. This is Gifted and Talented by Olivie Blake. Olivie Blake is obviously a very well known and respected author. Her famous series that everyone knows her for is the Atlas 6 trilogy, which I actually haven't read. The book of hers that I've read is One for My Enemy, and I was a little bit on the fence about it, but I picked this book up from the library and I have actually started it, and I then looked it up on Goodreads and it's got like 8,000 reviews, which for a book is actually not that many. So it's got 8,792 ratings and 2,701 reviews. You compare that to Atlas 6, which has 267,000. It's quite a big jump. So I think it's relatively new, which is probably to a degree why it's got lower ratings, but I also just don't see anyone talk about this book. Effectively, you are following, it's very, very similar to Succession in terms of the plot setup. You have a father who has a massive, massive empire, and it's a communications empire, which is very, very similar to Succession. And then you've got 3 children who have all gone off and done their own thing, but have had varying levels of success. You have Meredith, who's the eldest daughter, who created a company that supposedly cured depression, but at the beginning of the book, her, I think, ex-boyfriend turns up and he is a journalist, and he basically says that she frauded her trials of it and it's actually not a successful business. You then have Arthur, who is the middle child or the only son, and he was I think the youngest congressman in history, but he's probably not going to get re-elected. And then you have, I don't know how you pronounce this name, Eilidh? E-I-L-I-D-H. Actually don't know how you pronounce that name. And she is the youngest daughter, and she was a ballerina for the New York ballet company, like a really successful, high performing ballerina, but then had an accident and she now actually works for her dad, but in a relatively junior position. And then they all kind of find out in the very first day that the father has had a stroke and has died. And it's basically just who's going to take over the family business, but then you throw in there that they all have sort of telekinesis or I can't say that word. Telepathic abilities. So there's a little bit of magic sprinkled in there, but it's ultimately feels like it's just set in real life, and then they kind of have some weird abilities. But yeah, I'm currently on page 112 and I'm actually really enjoying it. It's really easy to get into. I found the same thing with One for My Enemy. Olivie Blake just writes a style that's just really quick and easy to feel like you're part of the plot, and I'm really enjoying how it's been set up. You're following these 3 kids. There's flashbacks to when they all basically realised that their respective careers they were trying to follow were falling apart. And now we've reached a point where they've all discovered that the dad's died and they're having to meet up. So this is book number 1. I think this is the most reviewed book of the books that I'm going to read in this vlog, but yeah, very excited, and maybe a redemption arc for Olivie Blake. We then have, I've literally heard no one talk about this book, and it's got very, very few reviews on Goodreads. And I'm not gonna lie, I bought it primarily because it had dragons on the title, and I bought it in a shop. So I bought it in person, completely out of the blue, and it has 5,298 ratings on Goodreads and 1,134 reviews. So this is Taran Matharu's Dragon Rider, which I think is the first book in a new series, and the series is called the Soulbound Saga, of which the second book is out. I actually don't really know much about this book. Like I said, I purely bought it because it's about dragons and I have a massive dragon obsession. So this is what it says on the back of the book. Jay has spent his life forced to serve the cruel empire that killed his family until the arrival of Princess Erica of the Danks Kingdom. She is to marry the prince and brings a priceless gift, dragons. But only Danks royalty can bond with these magical beasts. When the betrothal ends in bloody chaos, Jay finally has the chance to escape, but first he steals a dragon egg. To seek his revenge and vanquish the Empire, Jay must now do the impossible, bond with a dragon. I think it's got pretty good ratings considering how little it's been reviewed. It's got a 3.89 and the second book's got a 4.07. So not bad. And yeah, I'm very, very excited. It's quite a long book. It's nearly 600 pages, but it sounds like it's gonna be fun. And who doesn't love a dragon story? And then the third one, I'm actually now starting to see people talk about this book, and I have seen it on 1 or 2 YouTube channels, but it's still relatively unspoken about. And I think it's gonna get more popular because it's been released into the works with a specific sprayed edge, which is where I got mine from. But this is Mikayla Bridges of Flame and Fury, and this one, just get back out of this hole I got myself into. This one has 1,627 ratings or 521 reviews. So also pretty untalked about, at least on Goodreads. And I bought this mostly because it's such an interesting concept. It's about Phoenix riders. So this is what it says on the back. On the island of Kendor, Phoenix racing is the most profitable and deadly work you can find. No one knows that better than Phoenix tamer Kaylin Vara. Tensions rise on and off the track when Kel is forced to team up with the one rider she can't stand. Arrogant, hot-headed Warren Coopers. As her resentment for Coop ignites into something dangerously new, Kel uncovers a sinister plot that threatens everyone she cares for. The pressure to win has never been higher. Another reason why I'm quite interested about this book, and I hope it's good, is that this seems to be a standalone. There doesn't seem to be a series that follows after this book, which for a plot that follows like a mythological beast like a phoenix, that's quite unusual. And they all have under 10,000 reviews on Goodreads. And we're going to read them together this week, and that is going to be the plan. So I'm going to go head upstairs and start Gifted and Talented, or not start, but continue Gifted and Talented by Olivie Blake, and I will keep you posted. But at the moment it's very much giving Succession, and there's not a huge amount of magic. The only really reference to it is the way that Meredith used it to fake her trials, but apart from that, hasn't been referenced that much. So I'm kind of quite interested to see how they bring that more into the story. But in the meantime, yeah, I'm gonna keep reading this book and I will keep you guys posted. It is a while later and I have made it to page 350 of Gifted and Talented. It's currently Monday. I think I started this video yesterday, and I have to say, so far this book could be exactly the same plot without the like ever so slight mentions to the fact that some of them have mystical or magical abilities. Like there's a slight reference to it, which is part of the reason why they get in contact with someone. But apart from that, like it doesn't really change the plot at all, really. Like all the things that happen that are linked to these abilities could have just happened anyway. So it's not feeling very fantastical. It's kind of just feeling like a lit fic book that just like every so often references some magical abilities that don't really have any say on the plot or the character development. So I don't really know why it's there. I mean, there is, what, 150-ish pages left, so maybe it'll all come to fruition in the latter half of the book, but this book has currently been across, I think, 3 days in total so far. We still don't have the verdict of what's happened with the dad's will. It's currently being contested between 2 lawyers. So you've effectively got the 3 kids working out their own things, one of them being that they have these mystical abilities that they don't ever really seem to reference, other than the fact they're now looking into them. It's a bit odd. I'm really enjoying the writing. I feel like I would enjoy the plot if it either went one way or the other slightly more, but yeah, the fantasy bit's throwing me off, but the actual like meat of the plot I'm enjoying. So I finished the book. I really enjoyed the writing style. There was some like, it was almost being told like you were being told a story rather than reading a book, which I know a book is a story, but it's almost like there's a narrator telling you the story, which I actually really enjoyed. It still felt like towards the end, the magical element of the story just never really came to fruition, and it kind of just felt like it wasn't supposed to be there. Like, I just can't. I feel like the book would have been so much better if they just scrapped the magical element and just leaned into the fact that it's about a group of 3 children inheriting, or potentially inheriting, a company from their dad who just died, and then they're all going through their own stuff. Like, I feel like if it just stayed as that, it'd have been a good book. But because they like tried to weave this like magical essence into it that didn't quite work, and the rules didn't make any sense, and it wasn't really addressed very much, it then kind of ruined the story. So I think because of that, I'm giving it 3 stars. It just didn't quite work. Yeah, I've now finished this book. And I can move on to my next read, which is going to be Dragon Rider by Taran Matharu, which I have literally heard nobody talk about this book. And like I said, the second one is already out, so it's already very much being developed into a whole series, which is very exciting. But I picked this up from a bookshop purely because it had dragons in it, and that is it. It's got a rating of 3.89, and the previous book I just finished had an average rating of 3.56. So it's a better average rating than Olivie Blake, and I feel like Olivie Blake probably has an element of some 5 stars built in just because people love her. So I have high hopes for this. We shall see. It's a very long book. It's only 600 pages, so I think it's going to take me some time, but I'm going to go and start this in bed right now because it's currently just past 9 p.m. and yeah, let's see how far I get. It's honestly like Eragon, if Eragon was slightly older. Basically given the same vibe. I've just made it to page 402, and I've absolutely devoured this book. Like, absolutely read it pretty much without blinking. I mean, I did read a chunk of it last night, a chunk of it on the train this morning, a chunk of it on the train this evening, and a chunk when I got home. If I did an extra, a chunk when I got home. So it's over 4 stints, but within those stints, I was locked in, and I am actually really enjoying this book. As I said, it's very much giving a slightly older Eragon, and it's still a similar setup. Like, you have a relatively young male, and I haven't read a book with a male protagonist, as in like from their point of view and only their point of view, for a very long time. I feel like most of the fantasies I read are not necessarily on purpose, but most of the fantasies I read are either dual POV or from a girl's point of view. Like, I don't feel like I've read a male point of view fantasy in a really long time. But it's basically like, there's a guy, he was living with the royal family. There is a princess who comes to marry into the other royal family and brings with her dragons. And the princess that comes to marry into this royal family, their bloodline can basically, I don't know what they call them, mate? Bond. They bond with dragons. And this guy steals an egg as he escapes basically a war. And he bonds, or attempts to bond, with a dragon. And he then goes off on a bit of adventure, and he's now trying to get to another land, and you're effectively following that. It's also, I feel like, been a very long time since I read a fantasy without a romance plot in it at all. Like, there might be, I think, in a future book, but there's just not really a romance plot involved. There's like hints of one, but like it's so not part of the plot, and basically not there. But it's very much like a true fantasy, without a romance subplot, or not a romantasy. Like, it's actually a really nice, fresh change. And I wouldn't say it's a particularly original concept, because like I said, it's very much feeling like an Eragon retelling, but I'm enjoying the fact that it's not led into that whole like fated mates type situation that I feel like I've read a lot of recently. And for that reason, I'm actually like really enjoying it. And I've already put the second book on hold at the library because I feel like I'm just going to want to go straight into it. But yeah, it's also making me want to reread Eragon, because I haven't read that series since I was really, really small. I remember reading it and the film coming out and absolutely despising the film, but I haven't watched or read either of those two things in a very, very long time. Yeah, I'm actually just really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the fact that it feels like a different pace, that you're meant to be just following someone on an adventure, and there's kind of... It doesn't yet feel like they need to like save the world. It just feels like you're following this guy as he is discovering his skills. He's kind of going through a bit of character development. He's creating these like little friendship group, and I'm just really enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying it. So I've got about 160, I think, pages left before I finish this book. So I'm absolutely going to sit upstairs. It's currently 8:30. I'm going to sit upstairs and just finish the book off because I am so excited, which is nuts because I started this book last night at 9:30 and I'm probably going to finish it the following day at 9:30. I finished it and I literally sat in bed and read the last, 160 pages in like half an hour. Like, I devoured that last bit. I actually felt like towards the end it kind of moved away from the Aragon plotline. It was starting to get its own like legs and it was starting to get its own thing, and I found I saw the ending coming. There's a twist at the end which I pretty much saw from the beginning, but apart from that, I'm excited for the second book. I am buzzing to be reading a story that is like a true fantasy. Especially after Gifted and Talented, which was like a fake fantasy, it was so nice to read like a proper true fantasy. So I have now finished this book. I'm gonna give it a 5 stars in Goodreads, but I would say it's probably more like a 4.5. But I've already put the second book on hold and I am so excited to read it. So the second book is currently out in hardback, but not paperback. So I probably won't buy the book until it comes out in paperback in like February, March time of next year. But like I said, the book, I will read it because I can't wait that long. I just can't. And now we have the next book on my little TBR list. I'm pretty sure this is standalone. Have I already gone through this? Yeah, this seems to be a standalone book, which is very fun. And what it says on Goodreads is Fourth Wing meets Iron Widow in this Enemies to Lovers young adult romantic fantasy by debut author Mikayla Bridge. This hottest must-read of the summer. On an island built from ash and shrouded in fire, Phoenix racing is a sport just as profitable as it is deadly. 17-year-old Kel Vara and her team of underdogs, the Crimson Howlers, are desperate to win the annual races and the fortune that comes with it. But the Howlers need a new rider, which leads Kel to join forces with the Rowan Coopers, an arrogant rival she can't get out of her head. As tensions rise on and off the track, Kel's home is mistakenly burned down and she's forced to take a job from a mysterious tech mogul with an unsettling interest in her phoenix, Savita. This sets in motion a conspiracy that threatens everyone Kel cares for, especially Coop, for whom her embers of resentment are quickly igniting into something dangerously new. Heart-pounding pages full of steamy romance, fiery confessions, political scheming, and volatile magic culminate in a final twist readers will never see coming. Okay, it's actually not too long a book considering it's a standalone fantasy. It's about 380-ish pages and yeah, I'm very excited. It's also just stunning, which I feel like I've mentioned a few times now. The fact this book has the most beautiful sprayed edges. I can't, like, it's so pretty. But yeah, so I read a big chunk of this book yesterday. I got to page 312 across my 2 commutes to and from London. I'm also out of breath because I just ran up the stairs. It's a very different pace, a very different vibe, a very different book from the book before. And it kind of feels like a bit of a 180, and therefore I don't know if it's therefore like right book, wrong time, but it's kind of feeling a little bit flat. So what you are following is a group. There's 4 of them and they are Phoenix racers, but they're like a whole gang together. So one's the Phoenix tamer, one's the Phoenix racer, one invents all the things to like ride the Phoenixes, and one is PR. And then they end up going to work for like this like evil corporation and have to like race there and then kind of discover what this corporation's up to. And it does feel like a YA book. Like, it's a very different pace and writing style from the book before, which was very much adult fantasy. Like, it is giving YA, which to me it was a bit of like it It's a good book. I wouldn't say it's a great book, but it's a good book. As a quick little standalone fantasy, get into like all the feels and vibes. It's fun. It's very predictable and you can kind of see where the whole thing is going. It might twist and turn me in the last 75 pages, but it does feel like you can see the entire plot, which kind of takes the fun away from it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we shall see. I've still got 75 pages left. I'm going to read it probably on the train into work, and then I'll have the day to kind of murmur on it, and we will touch base this evening. I finished it. I finished the book. I actually finished this earlier in the week, and it's now Saturday, so we're getting a slightly delayed review. But yeah, it was fun. It was cute. It was relatively low stakes. Like, I think it was trying to be high stakes, but it just did not feel like it. And I don't know if it's because it's after I read Dragon Rider, which is very much a traditional adult fantasy. And I don't mean like adult in the fact it's spicy. I just mean it's not childish and it's like an adult written book. Well, this is a YA fantasy with a romance subplot, and it just, I don't know, it felt like a world away from the book before, which sometimes is good, but I think this time, because there are a lot of similarities, because let's face it, phoenixes and dragons are not too dissimilar in the way that they are treated and the way that they're spoken about in books. So I enjoyed it. I think I put it as a 3 stars in Goodreads. Like, it was a fine book. I'm glad I read it. It's beautiful. It's a cute little story. I can't remember if I actually told you because it's been like 4 days since I last spoke to you, but you're following a group of phoenix racers, or like a team where there's one phoenix racer, and the plot really follows the phoenix racer and the phoenix tamer, who are the two that kind of have this like will they won't they romance. And at the beginning of the book, there is a phoenix who basically goes a little bit wild and could potentially cause a lot of damage. And the phoenix racer and the phoenix tamer go outside and like basically calm down this phoenix. And then that gets picked up by news crews and by all sorts. And they basically get inducted into working for this company that the phoenix tamer, which is our female main character, absolutely despises, but feels like she has to join because she is running out of money. And you basically then watch her grapple with what she wants to do versus what the company wants to do, and the company has nefarious intentions, so you're kind of just watching that. And so as much as like the stakes are relatively high, when you compare it to like the absolute universe that this is, it just kind of felt a bit small. But then again, it's a standalone fantasy, so the fact is one and done and it's finished. I've kind of wondered to me if this is right book, wrong time. I'm not sure, but it was fine. It was fun. If you want like a kind of easy fantasy where there's not that much world building really, game politics in the fact like how the Phoenix game works, but apart from that, it's a relatively straightforward book. There's not really any magic apart from the phoenixes. So yeah, if you want like a nice, quick, easy, standalone fantasy, but it does skew a little bit YA. So it depends what your vibe is there. But I need to take this book back to the library, so we are going to wrap up this video here with the 3 books that I've read that all have under 10,000 ratings on Goodreads. We started off the week with Gifted and Talented by Olivie Blake, which I think they should have just taken the fantasy elements out of this book and just have it as a lit fic, and then it would have actually been quite good. I think because it was trying to be a fantasy, but it wasn't really like doing it particularly well. It kind of felt a little bit flat, but I think if it was just an actual lit fic book following a tech mogul who is dying or / has died and is trying to work out which of his 3 children to give the company to, it's obviously very reminiscent of Succession, but it was a very well written book. It's just the fantasy element didn't quite work. We then had my surprising star of the show, which is Dragon Rider by Taran and Matharu, which I loved. I mean, I always love things with dragons in, but this was such a refreshing change, because most fantasies I read right now are like fae or fated mates, or there's like big romance like threads to them. Just reading like a good old-fashioned fantasy with a male point of view just felt a bit different. I mean, I know it's not. I mean, I know that's not unique, but just based on what's popular online at the moment, it just felt refreshing. I love the writing, I like where the world's going, and I've already got a second book on hold, which I'm gonna go pick up when I return gifted and talented. So very excited. And then we finished off the week with Of Flame and Fury by Mikayla Bridge. I liked this. I mean, I've just reviewed this, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but I liked this. I just didn't love it. And there you have it. Those are some very under talked about books, or at least currently as I'm filming this video. I hope you guys enjoyed spending the week with me reading 3 fantasy reads as we veer into autumn, albeit it's sunny at the moment, but as we veer into autumn. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video, which I think will be a week of reading while I'm on holiday. I think that's what the next video is going to be, but I will see you then regardless. Bye!